And they made up a little certificate that says, and action. Welcome back to Show and Tell. I'm Billie. I'm coming to you from my 9th floor apartment in Manhattan. Happy birthday, America. Today is Independence Day. Today happens to be the birthday of America. So let's wish our country a very happy birthday. It's an occasion to wear red, white, and blue. I dredged this up. This is something I knit in the 1980s. I'll talk about it a little bit later on. Anyway, I haven't seen you for a little while because I've really been working monogamously on one project. If you saw the last episode, you'll recall that I'm using a classic Norwegian pattern to design my own sweater, a very, very basic sweater that will have, I think, a drop shoulder like this. I might do a modified drop shoulder to have a little less fabric under here, but actually this isn't as bad as some drop shoulder sweaters that I've seen. Sometimes you get a lot of extra stuff. Anyway, I am partway up the front. I'm up to about here. And I decided, rather than going all the way, that I wanted to work on the back as well. It's not too often that I allow you to see me knitting, but I thought today, I'm near the end of a row, I thought maybe I would give you an opportunity to watch me knit just a little bit so that I can finish this row mainly and show it to you that way. Let's see. So I have 2 colors, and I've been keeping the blue yarn in my left hand and the white yarn in my right hand consistently. Let me get them on the front of my fabric since I'm purling. Okay, let's see. 3 of those. I think I have to do 4 blues. This is how I normally knit. I'm a continental knitter, but because I have the white in my left hand, it's hard. You know, normally I would have this leaning on me. So I don't feel like I have a good grasp on the knitting, but at this point, it's hard to talk and knit in this pattern. But at this point, I'm pretty sure that I have the pattern memorized. Not really memorized, but I don't need to refer to the chart, is what I'm trying to say. And I'll explain. Okay, here. So now I've done this much of the other side. So I'm making a lot of progress, and I feel it's going pretty quickly, and I attribute that to not having to stop and look at a chart all the time. I did in the very beginning, but you probably can see that this is very geometric. These are diamonds, so you're increasing 1 stitch and you're decreasing 1 stitch on each row. And essentially it's the same thing here. There's an X that goes through this little square. And everything on this band is repeated exactly the same on the next band, except it's shifted over 1 unit. So it's very geometric. It's actually rather mathematical too. And as I'm knitting, now that I have done this quite a bit, I feel like the chart is right here for me. So when I'm on this row, if I'm not sure what to do before and after the diamond, I just simply have to look at the diamond over here that I already knit. And I know how many rows I start with one stitch and go up to the largest number of stitches, and then I decrease back down to one. And I know how many stitches of blue are in between each of the whites. So I get into kind of a rhythm and I can eyeball it. Now, I'm not steeking this by knitting in the round, rather I am knitting the front and the back flat. So when I get to the purl side, and here are my beautiful floats, when I get to this side, it's a little bit harder to read my knitting, but I just flip it over if I need to refer to the other side and see like, oh, am I in the white diamond or am I in the little square area? And all I can say is it's been moving along rather nicely. Now, I brought back for comparison my For the Rink or the Links. You might remember me struggling with this and having to rip out a good part of it, and I'm in the process of reknitting it, although I haven't touched it in quite some time. This was a pattern, this is also fairly geometric, but this was a pattern that I was not able to get into a groove on because there's a lot more going on here. First of all, it's 3 colors. Second of all, what happens here is not repeated here, not for a long time. So I still, when I'm knitting this, do need to check on a pattern once in a while. But here too, after doing it a lot, I know that with each successive row, I'm just sliding over one stitch to get that 45-degree angle. Same thing here, I'm expanding by one stitch. And the same thing with the red V shape there. So there is a little bit of a rhythm going here too, and I promise to get back to this maybe later on this year, I hope, because as you can see, it's just a fabulous motif and I love the colors. If you've been here for a while, you'll know that I bought a pair of shoes that I wanted to wear with a matching sweater, and that's how I arrived at these colors. I picked the colors off the shoe. Anyway, that's another project for another day. What can I tell you about this? When I knit the first piece, I had made a very small hem. Maybe it's a ½ an inch or so, and that's fine. I mean, it does give a nice finished edge, and it does help it to hang more nicely since there's not going to be ribbing here. But I felt like there was a little bit of a bump midway through. So on the other panel, I decided to make this hem longer so that it comes to about here. I'll have to see when I assemble the sweater which one I want to be in the front, which one I want to be in the back, because I'm sure that one of them is going to lay more nicely. Nicer? I'm sure one of them is going to lay better than the other, and that's what I'll go with. So I'm planning to knit kind of straight up, and then I may knit the sleeves separately. It will give me a nice break from doing this because the sleeves are going to be similar to this. They're going to have striping, and the turtleneck will be similar to this. It's going to have striping and buttons going down the shoulder. So unlike this, where after completely knitting it stranded without much give and I couldn't get into it, this project I tried to learn a lesson from For the Rink or the Links by knitting on a bigger needle than this yarn would typically call for, and leaving my floats pretty darn loose. Let me give you a close-up image of that. I mean, I think my floats are good. There's not any buckling here. And I feel that there's a bit of stretch to this. I'm hoping that with the button shoulder and with this little bit of extra stretchiness, that even though it's stranded, it may be feasible to put it on. I did allow for a little more ease. I don't want something that's really oversized and boxy. I want it to be somewhat fitted, but I do want to be able to put it on. I am knitting off of these two cones. The yarn is Color Mart, and you'll see cones in the background. These were the first two cones that I ordered, where it was wound just in a single strand, but I suspected that I might not have enough yarn to do the whole project. Plus there's a matching hat that I intend to knit. So I asked them to wind it onto the cones for me with a double strand. See, there's two strands coming off of here. As soon as this second batch of yarn arrived, I started knitting straight away with this. So these are Color Mart 3/28 NM heavy lace weight cashmere. 150 grams for 1,360 meters. But don't forget, it's doubled, so I would have half the meterage times 2 plus all of that. So I've got plenty of yarn. The hat has a big pom-pom on it, so if I have a big surplus of yarn, I will go ahead and make the pom-pom out of cashmere. Maybe I would even make a pair of gloves or mittens to go with it. I'll have to see. I have to see how much yarn I have left over. So acquisitions this time, not so much. My friend Sabina keeps giving me little gifts every time she sees me. So this week, she gave me all these little baby appliques. Giraffes, sailboats, little family of ducks, chickies, and bunnies. I have no idea what I'm going to do with these, but they are certainly vintage. Back in the day, these cost 70 cents a pack. Oh, sorry, this one was 79 cents. Different brand. Washable and color fast. So there's no babies in my future, but they don't take up a lot of space, so I accepted her gracious gift. She also gave me this vintage pattern from the September 1966 issue of Women's Day. Ireland's Clodagh Designs, boutique suits and dresses for you to crochet. So not my jam, but it is fun to see the vintage typeface and the styling. You may remember from some of my other projects that I love to match accessories to my knitting. So this is the handbag that I had in mind when I chose this color yarn. It's a cute bag. It has little French phrases, les pommes de terre, couche de soleil, la parapluie, l'arbre, mouton. It's real cute. Something else about this pattern that makes it kind of unique for a complicated pattern is that it's pretty easy to see if you have an error. You know, if I started to knit on top of this diamond, another diamond, I would notice it right away. Even before I got to the end of that band, I would see, like after a row or two, that it wasn't in the right place. So every time I flip the piece over and I'm knitting on the right side, I'm always giving a little check to make sure that everything is lined up where it's supposed to be. And it's really, oh, I just dropped stitches. Let me pick them up before I have a problem. Okay. Oh, here's another Sabina gift, a little progress keeper. I don't usually use a progress keeper, but with this, I like to see how much I'm doing in a day. This is how much I've done so far today, like that much. But some days I do more than a whole band of this, and it keeps me motivated. It keeps me moving forward to see that I actually make progress during the course of the day. Does anybody else do that? Like, comment below if you use progress keepers or if you don't, and maybe share with us like why you do, if you do. Even though you know I don't stash yarn, I only buy as I go, I occasionally do look at yarn websites. There's a handful of companies that send me emails every day or every couple of days. One of them is Knit Picks, because I have bought from them in the past. And recently I saw something on their website about a little certificate that they made up for PhD in knitting, where PhD stands for Projects Half Done. Hello, that would be me. I guess I have a PhD in knitting. And they made up a little certificate that says, this is to certify that blank has partially completed a lot of projects. Oh, how funny is that? Come on. Well, because I'm knitting monogamously, I really don't have a lot to show you. But I do have lots of pictures that I've taken when I'm out and about in my town. So, following this, if you want to stay tuned, you'll see a stream of snapshots. I'm like man on the street with camera, and I'll give you some entertaining music to move it along a little. I'm going to say goodbye for now. See you next time. It might be a little more than a week this time, but enjoy this holiday weekend. And if you're watching this after the July 4th weekend, I hope you had a great holiday. Toodaloo.
So wave at me. Wave, do something. There you go.